Greetings, people. Liverpool, what are you saying? Wow, you ain't... Listen. I've come from London, right? And I want to have good things to say about Liverpool. I need energy. Liverpool, what are you saying? That's more like it. Oh, shout out Blue Boy, by the way. Well done. You had the young lady singing behind us there, mate. So you're definitely onto something there, man. Thank you so much for taking part of the Access All Areas seminar, the Liverpool leg of the tour. Before we start, we're actually going to introduce each of the panels so you can kind of get to know them and some of their career highlights. So without further ado, we are actually going to start with someone who I can actually refer to as a sister, big sister. We're not going to give ages away, but she's my big sister. Absolutely love her, the one and only Jade Styles.
Hi everyone, thank you for having me here today. So I'm Jade Style. For my journey, I'll just give you a bit of background. I started off in radio back in the late 90s, the good old days of vinyl, and I worked across all the late night music shows. I was then told to come over to this new digital network. What the hell was digital at the time? I did not know. Like, fine, as long as you're playing good music, I'm there. And I worked across all the various roles, which is now called BBC Radio 1 Extra. Prior to that, we were called Network X. And I've just worked through on all the different shows, and I'm now 1 Extra's music editor. So one of my main roles is to look after the daytime play of 1 Extra and our overall sound of what we're sounding as a network.
And can you also, well, yeah, you can clap it up for whoever you want to. Come on.
Thank you.
Trust me, she's groundbreaking in this, and also a walking encyclopedia when it comes to reggae dancehall. So if you guys love reggae dancehall, then definitely look for her after the seminar. Also, Jade, if you can kind of share with us like a career highlight, so like something that you think, you know, an achievement or a moment that you're really proud of, if you don't mind.
Okay, so there's two. There's one moment, obviously, thank you for the reggae dancehall connection. That's just by default, because I couldn't get into any other rave when I was younger, and it was only the dancehall raves they were going to let me in for, and then I just ended up loving the genre. But my main thing was sitting down with the legend that is David Rodigan, and he's asking me for my track selections. I was like, nah, this ain't real. That was a bit of a pinch myself moment of a big top DJ that I'd always looked up to as coming to me asking for my music selection. That's a highlight. And then there was another one when I recall having to look after 1 Extra in Ibiza one year that I curated the stage in 2019, and to see everything just the way it had worked out and how I'd exactly wanted it, I just had to stand back and go, I done that, and that was a moment.
It's amazing, man. Big up yourself, Jade. Now to my left is a prolific musician and dancer, one of your hometown people, so I need you to really clap it up for Janice Myers.
Hi guys.
Janice, can you kindly just share with us like how you got into the industry and a career highlight, if you don't mind?
Yeah. So I started making music when I was really young on MySpace. That was how I kind of stepped into the industry. And then I just started traveling around, going to London, collaborating with different artists and producers, doing showcases here in Liverpool, and just kind of built a name for myself. This was when like social media was first kicking in, so I did like live streams and really like honed a fan base. And yeah, I mean, I've just continued on my journey. I think career highlight for me was 2010 when I released the single independently and was spot played across all the radio shows on 1 Extra and BBC Radio 1 as well. We had like Trevor Nelson, everyone playing it independently, which was really cool. And also I collaborated with KRS-One, which, you know, that was a big deal. I was featured on his album called The World Is Mine independently as well. I've never actually been signed, and I've just continued to like work in and around the music industry, so doing dance, doing like media, so like videography, photography, visual editing, which is something that I've got a real passion for. And yeah, just like understanding the industry as a whole and kind of getting my fingers in as many pies as I can, and also doing community work. So I work a lot within the community in Liverpool and in London, specifically East London. I work with young people and trying to help them get into the music industry in whatever capacity that they wanted to. So.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And we can go now to the man who probably has the best hair on this panel, man, Rob March. Rob, if you can kindly give us an introduction to how you got into the industry and one of your career highlights, if you don't mind.
Yeah, Cheers, man. Nice to see you, everybody. So yeah, I've worked in live events for about 20 years now across arenas, venues, festivals, sports stadium. And I am currently the managing director for Sound City Festival. So we've just run a one-day music conference and a 2-day festival across city centre venues, which was amazing. And I've also got a startup business as well, which is all about connecting music fans to make sure they find people like them and get to go to more events together. And that's called GIGMATE, if you want to look that up. Highlights has been a few, but I think the main one's got to be my time at Chester Racecourse. I programmed a 2-day festival, closed the final day with Left Field, and was bombarded with calls from the great and good of Chester that their chandeliers were rattling from the bass because we turned the bass up to 11. So I'm quite proud of that one.
Appreciate that, Rob. Nice one. If I can turn to, well, do you know what? I said Rob had the best hair in the panel, but Mike might be giving him a run for his money there, you know. Mike, if you can kindly just give us an introduction into how you got in the game and one of your career highlights.
Yeah, sure. I'm Mike Murphy. Nice to meet you. I'm the global head of events and partnerships for DITTO Music. We're a global distributor. I was an artist. I worked a lot of shitty office jobs I didn't like, but in my spare time, I was starting an independent label. I was the singer-songwriter in a band I was in. Just did the whole DIY thing for about 10 years. Just got to learn and network in as much as I can. Got a job at DITTO Music, and then ever since then, just really kind of focused on helping independent artists. Particularly, I've got a passion for Liverpool artists trying to make a way, but literally, helping empower and educate artists to kind of get onto that next level independently. But I'd say kind of career highlight for me, again, there's been so many, but putting together the DITTO X conference, which we now roll out globally, but we've got a big one that we do in London at the O2 at the Indigo Room every year, which is this November, so it's our 4th year doing it there. We really help new artists, young people looking to get into the industry, just empowering them and getting them to meet everyone across the business, from radio, from DSPs to sync, publishing, just get everyone together. We have a big party every year, and it's really cool. And now we're expanding that out into America and Mexico and beyond. Yeah, so just love helping artists get to that next point.
Appreciate that, Mike. And last but certainly not least, I've saved him for last because he's probably got the best name on the panel. It's the one and only SHAURAV Da Silva. SHAURAV, thank you so much. And actually, guys, this man just came back from Miami to be here on this panel. So please clap it up for him. He's done a solid. SHAURAV, if you can kindly share with us how you got into the game and one of your career highlights, if you don't mind.
I'd love to. First of all, really happy to be here, and thanks for the nice intro. Before I say anything, I'd love everyone to move forward, because I think for all of us sitting here, we can just see a blank space at the front. So if everyone can move forward.
Don't be stush.
Come on, guys. We want to talk to you and we want to interact with you. So if we can see you, it makes it a bit easier. A lot of you sitting right at the back. There we go. Better. Thank you. I've been in the music industry for, scary as it is to say, almost 30 years now. So I started when I was 14 as a DJ, and I was playing at a lot of places I shouldn't be playing at, getting snuck in and learning the ropes. In my early 20s, I got into promoting club nights and eventually started meeting DJs, other DJs, producers and other artists, and that led me to my first management client, which was Rudimental, who I met doing club nights, and they were also playing on a pirate radio station called Deja Vu, which was in the office building that we were based out of. So that was like the first entry into the business for me, and it kind of happened really fast, where we had, a big record, and record labels started knocking at my door and asking me if I would do A&R. So I ended up working at a record label for, 2 record labels, one Universal for 7.5 years, and then I moved to Warner and had my own label imprint 3 years. Then fast forward to 2020 was when I went into publishing, and I set up a publishing venture with Tim and Danny, who are, I guess, legends in the music business. They managed a production outfit called Stargate, who produce some of the biggest records in the world. They publish people like Sam Smith and Charlie XCX and Emily Sandé. So we set up a publishing company together in 2020, which was dedicated to developing songwriters and producers. So the majority of what I do now is around putting creatives together, whether it be artists or songwriters, and trying to make the best records we can in the world to reach the biggest places they can. So very grateful to be here.
Nice. Appreciate you there, man. So that's an introduction to the people that you have here. This is like a plethora of experienced people on this panel. So there is going to be a Q&A session afterwards. So do think about, your questions, because these guys have a infinite amount of knowledge that could really be of use to you. So don't be shy. Definitely, get your questions ready. As for me, my name's Mark Wilberforce, or Mark the Force. I, like with Jade, started. Well, Jade didn't start at One Extra. I did. I started at One Extra in 2002 as a a member of radio production. I then moved on to BBC London in journalism. Went to BBC World Service with news and current affairs. Started presenting news, believe it or not. And yeah, now I'm actually a freelance writer with the BBC World Service. I've been doing articles recently with Ghanaian artists that were in the O2 arena, a guy called Medical. He's really big in Ghana. And yeah, so the power of print in terms of writing is still big if any of you guys are not just music writers, but just love writing in general. So do definitely take something like that into consideration. Now, this is a network seminar, right? Some of us find networking easy, others find it difficult, maybe a little bit reserved or shy. So we're going to actually start from that standpoint in terms of the benefits of networking. Jade, if you don't mind me asking you, what benefits do you believe that networking can bring to up and coming artists or creatives like we have in the room here?
I think the fact that you've even come out to sit here today is enough initiative to show that you're meeting with a panel of people that you can go to. Here's my address. Here's my address. Here's my email address. Don't need your home address. And here's my music. Put it under our noses. Here it is. The BBC introducing days that we've done has been phenomenal. Even just by doing it through the BBC introducing route, which is basically a platform. You upload your music, we get it played. Sometimes it is like looking for a needle in a haystack, but if you're there at that networking, at that moment, it's definitely being at the right place at the right time. Everyone says it, but it's so true. You can't do more than come. The best thing you've done is just be here today.
Absolutely. And can I just have like a show of hands, musicians in the room? If you're a musician, can you just raise your hand? Right. Okay, that's the overwhelming majority of you guys, isn't it? Photographers? Yes, Bamson. All right, old type Bamson. There was a guy called JADE. JADE, are you still here? There you are. Why don't you put your hand up, son? Oh, you see, it's the light. It's the light. Sorry, it's the blind. Sorry, it's blinding me. Okay, no, well done. And any like people that are in terms of not admin, but like managers or no managers. Okay, cool. So what I basically want to address now is using social media, especially from a younger generation. Social media can be a great tool into getting your brand established. And in terms of like marketing and branding, you just heard from Rob Marsh himself. Rob, can I actually ask you, if you don't mind, what tips and suggestions would you kindly like share in terms of solidifying one's brand as an artist or as an up and coming artist?
Yeah, I think obviously authenticity. I think that these platforms are phenomenal and will gain you so much exposure, but just make sure you're really clear how you want to position yourself on those platforms, because ultimately it's a broadcast tool. As you were talking about print before, then yeah, there's definitely, and there will continue to be a place for print, but these are automatic, live broadcast platforms. So I think just definitely to take advantage of them, but just have that thought process of how you want to be seen, what you want your brand to be. That's how you're going to get the most out of it, and have that consistency and have that resilience to just keep going. Some of these platforms, it takes a while to get the traction. It takes a while to get the build up, but just keep plugging away at it.
That's it. Perseverance pays indeed. And sorry, Janice, we saw in the room that a lot of the people here consists of artists, and I imagine a lot of you are unsigned. Can you actually share with us maybe I wouldn't say struggles, but then, you know, how has it been navigating the industry as an artist who's up and coming, who has not been signed?
I think when it comes to like the mainstream industry, there are a lot of politics that you might not necessarily understand, or there's a lot of there's a lot of moving parts to the industry. So for me, I navigated that by getting myself involved in all the different areas. So I think maybe publishing and distribution are the two that I haven't really got involved in so much, but things like the media around, you know, what goes on the event side of things, and understanding, like, as an independent artist, it's really important to hone your fan base. So whether that be online, or I know it's a bit old school now, but physically actually, like, maybe going out with your music, maybe not CDs these days, but like USBs or QR codes, or like, you know, going to events and promoting yourself, networking with other artists, collaborating as well is a real key. Because if you've got like a small fan base and somebody else has, and you bring your fan bases together, that's a way of expanding yourself really as an artist. And I think that's the main thing. You want to have that support behind you so that you can continue to grow as an independent artist.
Thank you so much. And you actually mentioned, you touched on publishing, and we have on our panel arguably one of the biggest in terms of who've been involved in publishing, SHAURAV Da Silva. SHAURAV, there's been quite a few stories of artists. I don't know if you guys have heard stories about artists who have fought for publishing, or, you know, they're at loggerheads with their labels. Can you share with us the importance of publishing, and just kind of breaking down, you know, how important it is for an artist in terms of how they make money and earn a living?
Yeah, I think the best way to simplify it is you have two sides of a song. You have the master recording, which is, you know, the song itself when it gets played out, and then you have the composition. And the composition is the part that the publishers are there to protect and exploit in the future. So when you write a song, let's say it's you're the artist, and then there's a producer. You own the composition 50-50 between yourselves, if that's what you've agreed as a split, right? And then your representative publishers will be there to make sure that the track is collected correctly. So they'll register it properly on the PRS system. They'll make sure that all the collection companies across the world are collecting the money properly on your behalf, and then pay it through to you. Now, what a lot of people not forget, but maybe don't know, is that there's two parts of a publishing composition. There's the writer's share and there's the publisher's share. So if you imagine you've made £100 in income on the publisher's share, the publisher's share is then split between the publisher and the writer, depending on whatever kind of deal you've got. But the writer's share always gets paid through to you. So there's effectively two shares that come through to you from the songwriting composition. So our job as a publisher, just to sort of expand on that, is to create more opportunity. So whether it's sync, whether it's placing it with an artist, placing a song with an artist, whether it's a collaboration, whether it's creating new opportunities globally, helping sort of generate remixes or new ideas for how you can rework the song, sampling. It's the kind of long-term exploitation of the copyright, as well as protecting the actual piece of music long-term. In terms of what your question was about the challenges that some new artists face, I think just general awareness of publishing is a little bit low for some people, and I think that when they're releasing music, they're looking at Spotify and they're thinking about how much money they can generate on Spotify without necessarily registering their track, or thinking about how they can make moves in the world of sync or the world of song placement or collaboration as a way of generating money too. So just remember it as two different areas of income, and you're entitled to both sides, so you've got to make the most of both sides if you can.
Absolutely, I appreciate that, SHAURAV, honestly. Mike, if I can go to you next, as a label owner and a label boss, can I ask, what do you particularly look for in an artist when you're looking to sign them, when you're thinking about signing them? Like, you know, what are the characteristics rather that you're looking for?
Yeah, I mean, from a DITTO point of view, I'd love to say I'm the boss, but I'm not. I think from a distribution point of view and then a label point of view, they're two different things. But from a label point of view, yeah, it was just a small independent label, but I just kind of wanted to, obviously, talent, a band, for example. It was an indie rock lane, which I was focused in. Great songs, I think great attitude. I think if a collective of a band has got a great look, it makes sense. They've got a good brand. But hard working. I've got a really good ethos in getting the heads down and know how to work socials. So kind of, all that point of view. But I think there's so much that can be done independently now as well with the support of obviously, you know, networking events like this and conferences and getting the knowledge from, you know, all these wonderful people on the panel today. And companies like DITTO Music and Centric and a lot of other companies out there who really kind of back the independent play as well. I think kind of that, you know, there's a lot you can do yourself to get yourself to that point where you can kind of make that distinction of if you need a label at that point, and can you grow it independently to the point where, you know, that is the right move to get a label involved, or maybe kind of look at, you know, management opportunities or see what opportunities knock on your door. So yeah, I think kind of from a label point of view, I've got my own personal taste, but I think from an independent perspective, so much that can be done to get you to that level, and maybe all the way, depending on who you are and kind of how you can network it.
Oh, nice one, Mike. So we're talking about how, you know, you can potentially get signed, or how you can even pursue an independent career like Janice has shared with us. But I now want to talk about platforms. And Jade, if I can ask you, some people, you know, think that radio is becoming obsolete in terms of it's dying down. All right, you know what? A show of hands. Who listens to radio? Okay, and as opposed to, and who kind of gets their music on digital platforms such as Spotify and Apple? Okay, that's almost half of the room. So what I was going to ask Jade is, with the rise of music streaming platforms, where does radio still have that stronghold that it used to be, that it used to have in terms of like the 90s when there was no digital platforms? Like, what's your opinion on that?
So the honest answer, no, radio is definitely having a little moment, a decline, but it always has done, and there will always be time for it to come back. You know yourself, and we said this earlier, when you're listening, back in the day when you were listening to radio, even to get a shout out with you and your mates, you're like, oh my God, they said my name. Now imagine that when you get your track played on a radio. If you're listening to it and seeing it on YouTube, fine, you see the numbers go up a little bit. If you see it streaming on Spotify, fine, that's great. But when you get a DJ co-signing, getting into detail, sharing it with a fan base you probably knew never existed, it's opening you up to a world of a different fan base that you would never have if you were just streaming and Spotify and watching it on YouTube. There will be a time where it comes back because people will get bored of that genericness, of that non-personal. Radio is very personal. You follow your DJ, you like what they play, and when they play your song, it's another world. It's a whole different thing. It will take time, but when it becomes, I think what's going to need to be is these influencers need to turn their face to presenting, get onto the radio, and then to help build each radio network profile. You do listen to radio, you just don't acknowledge it because it's in the car, it's everywhere. But once it's like going to finding your favourite supermarket, they do all the same thing, really. But if you follow the one that you really want to do, you'll get engaged with it. And I think there's other things that networks, that radio can do specifically, do more. Radio 1, for example, they have their big weekend. One Extra, we used to have One Extra Live where we'd done Liverpool 2013, I think it was. And it's just about getting out and about and being seen a bit more and rebranding and repurposing. but it'll come back.
Sorry, yes. Right.
Yeah, I just want to say the importance of radio is massive for publishers too. You know, when I'm talking about the composition, the majority of the income that comes in from the publishing side is from radio. And as Jade brilliantly articulated there, it's about curation. And we're in a time now where there's so much music, you know, to get your music heard is incredibly difficult because 120,000 new tracks out every week or whatever the stat is. It might be every day, I don't know. It changes on a regular basis. But there's a lot of music out there. It's really hard to get your music heard. It's really hard to get your music playlisted on Spotify because essentially you need fans. So the curation, the cosign, people being able to sort of direct people to great music or discover things and point them towards regional artists that might not have a voice, that's the things that One Extra have done brilliantly for the last 2 decades of me being in the music industry. And those events and those moments of curation are like pivotal for breaking artists, and they'll continue to do so. And more importantly, when a record does start to become successful on streaming, the radio support that you get is also extremely important in elongating the campaign, because when a record starts to really happen at streaming, when radio starts getting behind it, opens a whole new audience. So you can get this, tail of a campaign which lasts 6 or 12 months at radio. So if you just imagine it as another income stream on top of your streaming income, then you can see the value of it. It's not just one or the other.
Well, Liverpool, I'm sorry, clap that up, man, because they were both giving you gems. Thank you, Jade. Thank you, SHAURAV, honestly. Both of you actually touched on something that I want to kind of like pivot to, Janice, with regards to getting a big up or even hearing your record on radio, as well as the importance of monetizing your music via radio as well. And Janice, you actually mentioned in your intro, you had a phenomenal moment in 2010 with a big tune, which also featured the godfather of grime, Wiley. Can you share with us, like, the process in terms of how you got that track to that level and what it entailed?
Yeah, I mean, with that track, it was, as I say, I'd never been signed, but there was like, Wiley, he's got like, things in his head, and I mean, he's a great guy, but he set up this label called A-List, and he signed me to the label, but there was no real signage. He just used, for that, he kind of just used his leverage, pushed the single, but ultimately, it was an it was an interesting time, and that's when I got to learn about the politics of radio, actually, because we pushed it independently, and it was played by every single radio DJ on One Extra, and a lot on BBC Radio 1 as well. And also the music video was on TV, it was on Box, it was on MTV and everything. But then at this time, it wasn't so focused in on the streaming platforms and everything. So it was all based around radio. And because there's like a system in radio, so you get A-list, B-list, C-list, because it didn't get A-listed, and because a lot of the emphasis was on tracks being A-listed at the time, because once it's A-listed, then it's most likely to go into top 40. And when you get into top 40, like when it comes to like the publishing side of things, there's a whole thing around publishing, right? So if your track goes into top 40, then you are likely to make quite a lot of money off that song, because when it comes to like the whole system of publishing, like for example, DJs, a DJ who plays in a PRS registered venue, they're supposed to submit their track list to the venue, and then the venue is supposed to submit that track list to PRS.
Hold on a sec. Frisk, have you done that there, mate?
You got
Wait,
you don't know what it is, but
no,
that's
okay.
And this is all part of how the system is supposed to work, but it doesn't necessarily work like that. So with PRS, once a certain amount of time has passed, they will just look at a venue like Electrik and say, okay, this is an R&B venue. So they look at the top 40, and they will automatically assume that the top 40 is being played at that venue. So people make a lot of money through publishing when they shouldn't. So understanding that whole side of things, it's like, once it doesn't get A-listed, and like the people who are involved in the label and the people have got like fingers invested in the pie, they didn't really care anymore. So it kind of like, it could have done better than it did. I hate to sound like that, like bitter person, like my single should have gone bigger than it was. But there was politics, and the reason that they give is because in the artwork I had a fur coat on. So they were like, oh no, we can't playlist this because you're wearing a fur coat. And it was like, can we just change the artwork? And it was like, no, next, sorry, bother you now, bye. So that's why I kind of went and learned about the industry on a broader perspective and got involved in different areas of the industry and just continue to make music as an independent artist. And then, yeah, I think for me as well, like my kind of popularity isn't so much on social media. It's more like, it sounds a bit weird, but I've got more street cred, like, because I'm just on the ground, do you know what I mean, with people making music. Sorry, that just went off on a bit of a tangent there, but yeah, I mean, the route as an independent artist when it comes to radio and publishing, it can be a little bit complex, but if you can get in touch with organizations like Centric Music or Ditto, they do really good work in terms of like helping you with your publishing and things like that as an indie artist. And then I'm sure SHAURAV, like with Two Tone and, you know, the things that you've got going on, there are ways and avenues that you can make sure that your publishing is secured. And like, even if it's just like when you play at a venue, make sure that you register that track that you've played at. That's really important.
I was going to move.
That's a really important point actually for everyone. If all of you are artists, you should all be registering on PRS. Like, no excuses. It's literally, you know, £100 maximum or something like that to register. Just get on there, register. When you release a record, please make sure that you register your track on there, because even if you're not published, that money will flow directly straight through to you.
Sure, we have a certain synergy there, you know, because I was literally going to pan to you to kind of like elaborate on that. I don't know if it's a football team thing. Who do you support? Oh, bloody hell. All right, fair enough.
I know what.
Oh, never mind. Don't worry about it. Rob, with regards to the different things that we can do in the industry, because I know that you've kind of like navigated yourself through a number of different industries. I was actually even talking to Hakeem a few days ago about someone called DJ Kenny Allstar. I don't know if you guys are familiar. Who the bloody hell's vaping in here? Come on, man. Anyway, all right. Yeah, I was talking to Hakeem about DJ Kenny Allstar, who actually was on TNT Sports talking about football, the build up to the Champions League, and we're talking about a street DJ who then evolved into a national broadcaster who is now on TNT Sport talking about football. So the reason why I'm basically just segueing into this is to actually just if we can demonstrate to the audience what other areas can creatives navigate through and how easy or difficult is it to do that?
Yeah, no, that's a really great example, because my experience is predominantly in sport and in music and cutting across. And it's similar to the point that you were saying before, it's getting that exposure, getting that experience. And what you'll find is there's a whole host of transferable skills that you can then move different industries once you've got that base. But I think for a creative person, it's really, really essential that you understand the mechanics of the industry. Like we said before, the politics and just how that works. I understand that the creative element and the performance will be your passion, but also try and get yourself engaged and involved in the industry and at as many levels as possible. Whether that is coming to events like this, making sure that you do, if you've got a question, ask it. If you're not comfortable asking it to the whole group, come and find one of us and kind of use us while we're here. But also then potentially kind of volunteering and getting involved in labels, in publishing, and just knocking on doors and saying, look, I want to know how this works.
Absolutely. I actually want to touch on that, and this is actually for the whole panel. You talked about volunteering and maybe even internships. Do any of you guys have any good examples of how volunteering or internships have really been beneficial in your careers at all? Mike?
Not so much my career. I wish I would have actually had opportunities when I was younger, because they very rarely existed in Liverpool for the music industry anyway. But at the minute, there's a lot of work that companies in Liverpool are actually doing into making sure that there is opportunities there. So work with Lymph Yao Owusu, who does some great work in that lane, and we always do like a partnership to educate, but also look for internship opportunities and other community programs as well, like open source, where we get someone in who, you know, maybe they'll have some great skill sets, some ideas already. They're already in the music industry, got some great experience, having trouble kind of getting, you know, knocking on the right doors and getting them opportunities. And our own industry access program that we do at DITTO as well, where we've had someone based in London who's joined our publishing team on the back of great attitude. They came in, did an internship that worked out really well, and that's elevated to a full-time position, essentially working in London for DITTO's publishing team. So 100%, I think kind of I'd always recommend, you know, contacting companies, you know, contact DITTO, speak to me, speak to Centric, speak to Sound City, Modern Sky, you know, anyone who's in the area, BBC as well, you know, see what's going on there for internships and opportunities, Radio Merseyside. If you want to get into that game and keep your finger in a few pies beyond being an independent artist, you want to kind of do some work as well in the industry, get more perspective. I couldn't recommend it more. Just build up a relationship, get to know someone, throw your CV over, and just, you know, if you've got that positive relationship, you know, you never know what's around the corner.
Before I pass the mic on to other members of the panel, I also was an aspiring artist when I was younger. And the way how I got into the industry was volunteering to be part of a BBC mentoring scheme. And, you know, the BBC for the most part, you know, especially from someone of my background, like I was getting into trouble. I was doing a few bits and bobs out there. And I looked at the BBC as something, as a gateway into the industry. So all I wanted was just to get my big toe into the industry, and I'll navigate it from there. And then what I did was a 9-month mentoring scheme. No money, didn't get paid, but what I got in terms of compensation was access to big people in the industry. You know, mentors, people like Ray Paul, again, people like Hakeem, who actually curated this seminar. So many people that money couldn't do nothing. If they gave me £1,000 a week, I would have spunked that on something silly, and then I still wouldn't have had access to the people that I just mentioned and more. So I'm not going to say necessarily you should do that, but what I would say is, if you give in terms of volunteer yourself, you'll be surprised about what you would yield in terms of the return. So I'll just, you know, impart that with you guys. But is there anyone else that has any kind of
I think knowing that most of the people here are artists, the important thing for you guys is understanding how to build connection with your audience. I think where the world has changed from when I got into the music industry is that, you know, the likes of 1Extra and Radio 1 and Capital FM and all these other big radio stations, they were very much the gatekeepers when it came to, you know, curating which artists would come through. And it's changed significantly now, as Jade can tell you, where your own popularity that you create outside of radio and outside of media, through social media networks or live performances or whatever else you're doing, that's the stuff that really dictates how much airplay and recognition that you get. So if I was in your position and I was trying to build my artist career, I'd be trying to do work experience around people that knew how to build community and audiences. I'd be working at social media companies. I'd be working with you know, distributors or record labels that were focused in on this stuff every day. I know a lot of great artists who started off working at record labels or social companies that have learned the ins and outs of how to really maximize that opportunity to connect with an audience directly. So yeah, if those opportunities are there, definitely go and take them and learn your trade.
Thanks, SHAURAV. Appreciate that. Anyone else? No? Okay.
Yeah, I think also stepping into like different roles within the industry, it's great because, like you say, you get to network, you get to meet so many people. It's also a bit of a strange space to be in as an artist, because as an artist, if you're really serious about your craft, you really want to focus on your craft and you want people to know you as an artist. And when you're there behind the camera or you're doing other things, it can feel a little bit like, you know, disheartening when people don't recognize you as an artist. And you're kind of stepping into all these different roles. And then, like, I've done a lot of community work, so you're working with community, and, you know, it can feel like you're kind of losing your vision or you're losing your dream. But it's important to always stick to your vision and continue to work on your craft as an artist. So whether that just be continuing to write while you're doing all these other jobs, or, you know, continue to record, continue to collaborate, and like making sure that, you know, like these days there's a lot of emphasis on metrics, so numbers and social media numbers and followings and all that kind of stuff. But like, just do the music really because you love it, stay authentic, and continue to like really like enjoy what you're doing when you're making the music. Don't think about the industry so much when it comes to the creative side of things. And yeah, I think that's like a good way to kind of stay grounded in what it is that you're doing when you are continuing to explore in the industry.
Thanks, Janice. I want to touch on something that I think you guys are going to be really interested in now, in terms of what makes a good song and or even a good artist. And Jade, if you don't mind me panning to you, and I think the rest of the panel, if you got anything to chip in, feel free to do so. Jade, in your opinion, what makes a good song worthy of consideration for a playlist?
Okay, that's a good question. I'll start by saying what doesn't make a good song. And it's even down to, so every Wednesday at 1:30, we have a playlist meeting. Prior to that, my music team, myself and my team, come together and decide what even goes to that meeting in the first place. It could be so many things. The thing that doesn't make it, even as big as they are, Megan Thee Stallion, Ice Spice, they have these songs, they do millions. You look at it, go, yeah, they do millions. That's undeniable. But the way it sounds sonically and how what we're trying to do, every network at the moment is trying to keep what listeners do have and build on it. You don't want a song that's going to be so far reached that's going to be a turn down or even turn off or skip moment. So every time we're listening, first of all, we're listening sonically how it sounds. And even with Ice Spice, with this new song, Gimme the Light, which is a take on Sean Paul's track, Gimme the Light, it can be quite a Marmite song, which could be a complete turn off. And we go, right, well, it is Ice Spice, but you know what? Sonically, it's not sounding great. So first of all, it's about having a great chorus, a great hook, something that can be hooked onto that you're going to listen to more than once. For radio, it's all about the rotation and how it sounds in rotation. And it's got to just have that real moment and that beat, that hook. That's what would make a good radio track. And it just goes to a committee. We talk about it, we discuss it. It can get very heated. Some people are for it, some are against it. And then we all have to unanimously come to a decision. And it's not easy because there's 40 tracks. As Janice was saying, there's an A, a B, and a C. Every week there's about 10 songs to discuss for 4 spots. And it's fighting it out to the bitter end who gets those 4 spots. But it's also about making sure if it's not played in a playlist, we'll give it some radio play, give it some airtime, just to see how it fares, how it sounds on air. And it's always going to be that Shazamable moment going, I don't have a clue what this is, but I like it. What is it? And it's just finding that formula, that rhythmic formula of how it can sound more than anything.
Big up. And Shrav, I'm definitely going to go to you in one sec, but Jade mentioned Sean Paul, and we've actually got some behind the scenes guys like our photographer extraordinaire Bampson, who's worked with Sean Paul for God knows how long. So what I'm trying to tell you is that you are literally surrounded by industry figures who can help you in many ways, whether it is photography or anything else. So Jad, you heard that, yeah? Top man. Shrav.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight what Jade was saying a little bit more. A word that I like to share with people on these kind of panels is, or the audience, context is really important. Context is the ability to be able to see or hear your music in context of everything else and understand where it sits. And that's what Jade was talking about in terms of how a record sounds on radio and how it sort of, you know, how it feels and how people consume it. I think you have to have a level of awareness. I think Janice is 100% right about not losing your integrity in your art and getting caught up in numbers and all the things that you feel are important to get your record played. So you have to find the balance between keeping your integrity and making the music that you really believe in and that you really care about, but then also understanding where it sits in context to other music that exists, and then being honest with yourself and going pound for pound, how does it you know, how does it compare? How does that record sound next to that record? Why does my record not necessarily get the number of, you know, Shazams the other one did? Is there something that's, you know, hooky in the last track, i.e. a sample like Sean Paul or whatever? Like, those are the things that if you start becoming more aware of that, you can be more strategic in how you go about your release strategy and how you go about finding ways into getting bigger audiences.
Thanks, SHAURAV. Was there anyone else? No? Cool. Mike, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you about the importance of live events. It's probably one of, along publishing, is probably one of the two biggest ways for artists today of making money, considering the digital era that we're in. Can you maybe just share with the audience in terms of what it takes to actually create live events, and whether it's something that can even be like a career for some of the artists out here?
Yeah. I think going back to, and I still do my music, but as a solo artist as well. But when I was doing the band thing, when I was younger, you know, there's obviously local promoters and local venues like the Zanzibar. I even played on this stage here more than once. Cool places to play, but then I kind of wanted to know, well, if I wanted to build my fan base and my audience, and I guess the band I was in had a bit of a niche of like a psychedelia rock thing going on, how can we kind of tap into that audience and maybe create our own event and get all these kind of, you know, like-minded fans together to, you know, turn on to my band, but also maybe we could put on some other local artists that had fan bases. So I think that idea of using events as a collaboration and harvesting of a potential new fan base out there in your hometown, for me, was super important in my journey anyway. So we played the Casimir, which is around the corner, and we sold that out, and then we did the O2, sold that out, and then Camp and Fairness, we sold that out. We kept growing it. So I think kind of doing that is super important, and I learned loads about, obviously, hands-on, how hard it is putting on events, and but how rewarding it was to kind of meet so many people from all areas, from artists to production teams to promoters, you know, and so on. But I think kind of from an artist point of view, it's definitely, you know, building your own community and tapping into that community that's existing as well is super important, and collaborating as much as possible. And events is a great way to do that. If you've got merch as well, and that was a big one for us, it's the key place to do that. I know now you can merch bar, you can move vinyl and CD off Spotify even, but I think kind of, you know, if you get 100 fans, you know, not the biggest number of people, but 100 dedicated fans who will buy a ticket to come and watch you perform, you know, if you've got CDs or vinyls or t-shirts, and taking people's email addresses in and out, you know, you're going to be building long-term fans, but you're going to be making a bit more money as well on top of big tickets. So yeah, it's a good way to build things for sure.
Cheers for that, Mike. So I thought you were going to clap that one up. Sorry. No? Okay, no. Sorry. Not by force. Not by force. It was just, I just thought you were, that's all. SHAURAV, can I just go back to you, please? Because as well as being like a publisher extraordinaire, like you know, you've managed the likes of, you know, stellar acts such as Style OG, Fuse ODG, Cashtastic, just to name a few. Artist management, a lot of artists who have managers, oftentimes it's their best mate. So we might even have people in the audience who are artists who have come with their best mates, and they could actually be potential artist managers. Could you elaborate on what you think makes a good not only an artist manager but a good artist as well, in terms of what you'd look for?
Yeah, we actually manage a local artist called A-Star, who you guys might be aware of. He done really well. He's built a fan base from the ground up here in Liverpool, and it's just starting to reach the rest of the country now. He had a big sync on this series called The Gentleman, which was on Netflix, and that really sort of opened a lot of people's eyes to him. Our relationship with him, and I think the importance of this relationship is the same that any manager and artist should have, is the ability to understand each other and really understand each other. His way of working and what he wants to say and how he wants to say it is something that is very unique to him. And I think that when you're working with someone on a management level, there should be a good level of understanding of each other. And I say each other because sometimes artists, you know, rightly so, are very one-track minded, and you've only got one career, and I get that. But also the manager that's working with you has to build that journey, build on that journey with you. And for a long time, they don't earn any money, so there has to be a mutual respect between you of what each other does. And if you can do it with friends, amazing. I mean, there's so many great examples of artists that are doing great things with managers that started off as their friends and that wanted to be involved in what they were doing. So if you have smart people around you that are, they've got integrity, they care about what you're doing, and they want to see you win, then have that conversation with them. See if they've got something to offer in terms of how they can assist you in driving your career forwards.
Thanks, Rev. Appreciate that. I want to go kind of like to the current state of the music industry right now, as well as the future of it. We all know that AI has reared its head. Some may say it's an ugly head. Some may say it's a very helpful head. I want to address this for all the panel, and if I don't mind starting with you, please, Mike. What's your take on the current state of particularly the music industry right now, with the rise of? Sorry, I said Mike. Sorry, I meant Rob. I beg your pardon. Sorry, Rob. No disrespect. Rob, if I can ask you the current state of the music industry in terms of the rise of things such as AI, like what's your take on that? And if you can maybe impart some advice to the youngers in terms of how to navigate that.
Yeah, I think my main experience is on kind of the live event side, and just to add on to Mike's point before we move on, that again is a massive networking opportunity for you as well. I think that'll expose you to a whole other realm of the music industry that you can get great contacts and you can really utilize that. But I think, staying with live, those venues are really struggling at the moment, and especially at that kind of grassroots level. And if you look, there's a number of kind of well-publicized cases of venues that have closed, but it's 15% of those smaller venues are closing annually because of all the financial pressures and everything. So I think as a performer and as someone in the industry, make sure you're supporting those venues, not just going when you're performing, and actually engage with your local small venues, because ultimately, as cheesy and as cliche as it sounds, that's the future of the industry as it moves forward. And I think coming to the technological development, again, I'll focus on live. There is no way AI or any technology is going to create that live face-to-face experience, whatever venue that's in. You've got to capitalize on that. That's how you beat AI. And I'll pass on to someone else. There's a whole realm of positive elements around AI as well. But I think, just that face-to-face is never going to be replicated.
Yeah, just to quickly put in as well, 100%. And there's even stuff like holographic tours and stuff that's, is that how we're going to see Oasis reform, stuff like that? But it's not going to be the same, obviously. But as a distributor as well, AI, it's done two things. It's brought us an absolute bally, because we have to literally now hire in more people to go through the amount of content that we're receiving. Like our upload content is literally more than doubled over the last few months. A lot of it is AI stuff, and we actually counter AI with AI. We've got ways of kind of cutting things down to a point of knowing and indicating what's what, but we still manually have to go through every release. And there's a lot of copyright, obviously grey areas as well, where everyone in the business has been navigating through that over the last couple of years. But we kind of now know what's allowed, what's not allowed, and all that kind of stuff. So AI can benefit. It can benefit creative, sure, makes things a little bit easier. Is the aesthetic is the same? I guess probably not. The human element is always super important. So yeah, I think AI is here to stay, isn't it? It's just kind of using it in the best way and navigating the best way we can. But yeah, it's been quite a journey, hasn't it?
Tell me about it. Cheers for that, Mike. Janice, if I can ask you as well.
I think as an independent artist, like navigating the online space and utilizing like live streams and stuff like that is really cool. I think like maybe adding production value to the things that you do. So not just like sitting singing in a microphone, looking off obscurely while the camera's there, like really making a showcase of the performances that you do online and utilizing things like pay-per-view. I think there was like the TikTok live thing I seen last year, which was massive, and I'm not sure if people paid to watch it, but that was a really cool concert. Like I really enjoyed that. So looking at things like that, and also what we were talking about before with the publishing, like Shazam technology, that should really be getting used when it comes to publishing. So like we were saying about registering tracks, and like if there was a system in place that it was just automatic, you know, things like that. And also with like the augmented reality stuff, like I've been working on a project at the moment because I'm a trained dancer, so doing some like dance workshops where it's like you can watch a person performing in front of you and like teaching in front of you, which, you know, on one side you can look at it in two ways. It can like, you can look at it in a negative way where it's like taking people's jobs and, you know, the face-to-face interaction, but actually the practicality of you being in potentially one country and teaching a class in a totally different country or engaging with people in a different space, like, is really cool. There's so many things like coming, like the VR is one thing, but that augmented reality thing where it's like you can actually see and be in a space that you're not physically in is really exciting, I think. And if we use it in the right way, then it can be like something really special.
Absolutely. Thank you, Janice. Jade, as well, can I get your take on that?
I think with the pause on the AI thing, I think to jump on what Shanice is saying, now more than ever, I think is the best time for an independent artist. Yeah, all the big shiny labels are doing their thing, but there's more independent artists now doing it themselves because you have all the facilities to do it yourself. You don't need that structured team behind you as you would have done 10, 15 years ago. So I would just encourage everyone, and just on top of what Shanice is saying, to do you authentically, do your thing. Make sure on every social platform you're doing it for that platform. TikTok's very different to Instagram, and just know your audience and what you're doing and what it makes sense to you to do that. And I think now's the best time than ever to showcase yourself, put yourself out there.
No, you're right there, Sheriff.
I mean, I couldn't say it better than what Jay's just said it. I think back to the AI thing for a second. On the publishing side, it is a bit of a nightmare because people's work is being, you know, recreated. The one thing that I don't think we can ever replace is like true emotion or feeling, and I think that's the one thing that every one of you as a creative should be remembering. That connection that people have with a piece of music comes from emotion, and you can use AI in a smart way. I think, you know, I had something recently where a producer sampled another record, couldn't get the vocals, so AI'd the vocals and then sent it back to me, and then I sent it to the label and they were like, oh, we really like this, we'll send you the real vocals. So you can be creative with it, but I don't think it will ever replace the human element. I think you can get as close as you want to, but people still want to feel something.
Absolutely, yeah, man. Guys, we are almost coming to the end of the Liverpool leg of the seminar. But before we bounce, you're going to get a chance for, again, ask questions, Q&A. So do have them in mind. But before that, we just want to get a piece of advice pertaining to the panel's experience and background. Just something that you could impart the audience with. If I could start with, who was last to talk? If I could start with you there, Rob, please, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I think it's probably try not to pigeonhole yourself. As we said before, the majority of you are creatives, you're super passionate in what you're doing. But I come back to that point, learn about the industry, get exposure across the industry, because that will really help support that area of your work.
I would just say, love what you do, like really enjoy every aspect of what you do. Try and learn as much as you can as well. Like, don't just leave one area to like chance, or, you know, relying on somebody to do something that maybe they're not necessarily like, you know, trained in. For example, if you take your cousin on as a manager, you know, you guys have to work together as a team. And yeah, just like really do it for the passion, because music is a passion-led business. You know, there's this whole thing of selling your soul in the music industry. Well, in essence, that's what you're doing. You're putting your soul onto audio and you are selling it. You're standing on a stage, you're performing, you're singing your heart out. The first time I ever got into a studio with a professional studio engineer and producer, Da Vinci it was, he's a big producer in London. I was so nervous, and I've been writing songs since I was 9. I write songs like it's no one's business. I wrote songs in my sleep. It's really easy for me. And I could not say what I had on that paper. I pretended I didn't write anything because I was so nervous. And it was only in that moment that I realized, actually, I'm being really vulnerable and I'm scared. And from that, I learned, because I missed out on a good opportunity. So I learned to like push through, feel the fear and do it anyway. But what you do as an artist is a really special thing. And it's not something to be undervalued. Like, you're sharing your heart and soul with other people. So yeah, just acknowledge that and really honor it and, you know, cherish it and care for it and treat it properly and yeah, give it the, like, you know, everything that it deserves. Make sure you give it your all.
Appreciate that, Janice. Thank you. And big up Da Vinci, producer extraordinaire as well. Jade?
I would say don't take no for an answer. Someone's no is someone else's yes. From a radio point of view, have a listen to different radio stations. Think about where your sound can fit in and then do your research. Find out it's an email. You're an email away or 2 contacts away from just getting an in with a show producer, with a member of the music team, to get your music on their top of their emails, to be at least heard and get feedback from. You can't even ask for more than just a few lines of helping or feedback. You're not asking for a play necessarily. Feedback will really help. And a play would be amazing.
Thank you, Jade. Absolutely.
Sure. My one will be trust the process. I think a lot of people want to fast track their careers or want things to happen quickly. And I genuinely think that everyone is where they're supposed to be. And even though it might feel frustrating, there's lessons and there's things that you can learn along the way. And doors open, doors close. You have to be just, you know, poised and measured and try and understand what you've learned from that experience and not try and necessarily force anything. I think there's a lot of, bad advice about kicking down doors or forcing yourself through doors. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think you've got to follow energy and good energy of people that, you know, really care about what you're doing and understand what you're doing. And if you build your thing properly in terms of your connection with real people and real audiences, record labels, publishers, whoever, you know, they'll all come knocking on your door because that's the power that lies within your hands. All of us sitting here will come and ask to hear your music when we know that other people are interested, because it's about the power of connection. It's not just about numbers or stats. It's about the ability to influence and make other people feel a certain way.
Sorry, can I just chime in there really quickly as well, talking about like people and connecting with people and having good people. When you meet good people in the industry, you know, it's always important to appreciate those people. And SHAURAV back in the day gave me opportunities to perform live. It's something that I've never forgotten. I was able to tour all around the country with Thomas TS7. Yes, I just remembered him as Thomas. But yeah, so like that's really important because those connections will help you later on in life, and you just never know when things can come back around, or you know, you can connect with people again. So just appreciate those people, because not everybody will open those doors or give you those opportunities, you know.
Yeah, I think to elaborate on that as well, just being super, I know it's an obvious one, just being super positive, kind, polite and nice. And I think kind of if you get a door closed on you early on, you know, it's easy to, like, you know, be negative towards that person, and they could come right round again. 5 years time, which is quite important. I've seen that happen before as well. So I think kind of just building up positive relationships and just being super kind, enjoying the process, enjoying every minute of it, and being yourself, you know, do the music that you want to do that's coming from you. I think listening to other things and adjusting, I mean, that will always happen a little bit. You're always influenced by what's popular, or you want to be somewhere another artist is at. But yeah, 100% about staying true to yourself and keep going. And particularly Liverpool, I think, you know, there's a lot of the Liverpool, Manchester, London. There's not that many cities that have got this much resource around. In Liverpool, we're really fortunate. There's a lot of great people here that are really genuine and, you know, good people in the industry who help and support you. So yeah, definitely tap us all up and yeah, take advantage of that.
Absolutely. Guys, can you clap it up for the prestigious panel on the stage? So at this moment, do we have a floating mic? Cool. So we have a mic available. So if you got a question that you want to ask, just say your name, where you're from, and ask your question. If you can be brief, that way more people can get a chance to ask a question. So does anyone have a question for anyone on the panel? Yeah, so just tell us your name.
My name's Leeds. I was just wondering about the PRS. You know, if you sign up now, do you get back paid? Or not?
Okay.
Or no? Yeah, like
SHAURAV?
from what you've performed.
Oh, sorry.
I believe the term is 6 years that they can go back and collect money from. So, yeah. So, double check that on the site. Last I checked, that's what it was. But, yeah, if you want to get backdated payments, you should still be able to get it.
Thanks, SHAURAV. Anyone else with a question? Yes, Blue Boy. Yeah, come through. Who's it for, by the way? So I can just give them.
I've got 2 questions. My name's Blue Boy. I've got 2 questions. One, when registering for PRS, do you already have to have your track played on radio, or can you do it before you start getting your tracks played on radio? Because remember years ago when I thought about registering, it said if you haven't got your track played on radio, come back and register when you have, basically.
No, it's changed now because streaming services also pay through a share of the publishing and also live performances, as we were talking about earlier. So it's not just radio. Radio's one mean, but you should always register your tracks regardless.
My second question is actually for Janice. Is there any tracks in the vault of the A-list days where you and Miss Bratt are on the same track? Just a fanboy question, sorry.
Do you know what? There's loads, right? But they're just unreleased. They're somewhere on someone's hard drive or USB or something. I don't know. But there are. We made myself, Miss Bratt, Shola Amma, Sadie Amma, and Blue, Baby Blue. Yeah, we were all on a track and it was a really dope track. And there's a couple of others. I've collaborated with a few artists where they've never seen the light of day. So I've done a track with Steph London that's somewhere on someone's hard drive. There's a guy called Jermaine who was on the X Factor. I did like a big session at Chocolate Factory. There's loads. So I'm sure one day they'll all just pop up somewhere. But yeah.
Thanks, Janice. Anyone else with a question? Come on, you got out your glad rags to be here. You've got a prestigious panel that have got a plethora of information. Yes, Jad, do you want to ask a question, mate? Oh, sorry. Okay.
Access all areas.
Hi there, and welcome to Liverpool, first of all.
Thank you.
And you've done an amazing job so far, enlightening all of us. I really appreciate that, taking time out today. One question I would like to ask all of you, is you're mature people in the industry, what was a pivotal moment that made you not stop? Where you were thinking, this don't work, but now you're sitting here, smiling and looking content. What made you keep going when it was like, it's not going to happen?
Wow. I'm scared that you might take my job as a journalist. That's a great question, mate. I'll start, even though I'm not really part of this panel. When I realized I was able to get paid for a passion for something that I would do for free, that's when I didn't stop. That's when I stopped the road nonsense. That's when I stopped being a fool, because I was a fool and I was on the road. You know what I mean? But when I realized that I could get paid for just pursuing a passion, and I looked at what my other friends are doing, they were either in jobs they didn't like, or they were living a life that would lead to, negative outcomes. I just thought I'm extremely fortunate, and I'd be a fool to just squander this. So that was me.
I would say, thank you, by the way. That's really welcoming. I would say being here. I know it sounds being here, being able to speak to artists who are at this level that could soon be up here on the A-list, literally. And it's about watching that journey and being able to contribute to that journey of that artist from beginning till never ending. And that's something that really kept me in it going. Actually, I used to joke and be like, oh, I'll get paid one day for something more meaningful. And actually, it is because I'm helping develop artists and their journey.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, and it's nice that we're happy, smiley, and not talking for everyone else, but I'd say I'm never content, and I think that's kind of part of the industry, is the industry's constantly evolving and changing. So I had full-time jobs for 20 years, completely broke that down, set up a startup, bootstrapped, completely like self-funded for that kind of challenge. And I think you've got to have that drive to be in this industry, where it pays back in spades. The passion again, that investment comes back around. It's hard graft, man, but it's beautiful. It's like there's nothing better.
Yeah, I think, I mean, everyone's responses are really great. I think this business is a tough one, right? And it's a weird mixture of seeking validation from other people, and it can feel like you're chasing something that doesn't exist. But the truth is that when you're really proud of what you've done, like genuinely proud of it, and it's regardless of what metrics or what other people feel about your music, I think there's a level of satisfaction that is hard to beat. And I think when you reach that point and you feel like the work that you're doing really means something to you more than it does to anyone else, I think that's when you feel like you're in the right place and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I think for me, while I was doing my music, I was in jobs I really was unhappy with doing. I was always like, I'm doing my own thing in my spare time. The job pays the rent. And then after like 10, 12 years, it was like, I was seeing people that was like, why can't that be my job? And I think for me, you know, I know I'm very fortunate, and I really do appreciate being in a position where I can help artists, because, and that's only a part of my job, but you know, it's very rewarding. And I think kind of there was a time I didn't think that existed. You know, it's just that, particularly because of how things can be, particularly in working class, you know, cities, it can be very, very tough. So for me, it was just like, you know, don't underestimate yourselves and all the skill sets that you're building and that you're learning today. And one day, you know, even that will be something that you can use to get yourself in a, you know, if it's not just music, that you, as a creative, if you move to in an industry professional way and try and do both or one or the other, you know, everything that you're learning, you'll be able to use later on and build them skill sets. It's super valuable. So yeah, that kept me going. I was very happy to make that transition.
For me, I quit. I was like, I'm done. I hate this. You'd have to have thick skin, and I haven't got thick skin. I'm a very sensitive soul. So I went to a session. I was invited to a session at Chocolate Factory, the one I mentioned before, and there was big producers, big artists there, and I realized, like, I'm better than a lot of these. Like, I'm in the session, I'm writing faster, more quality music. Like, and I thought, this is a God-given talent. I can't not utilize my talent, even if I'm not pushing it as much as I can. As long as I continue to do, you know, what I'm doing and work with people, then, you know, at some point in life, I look at my career as a legacy. So I look at me looking back in 30, 40 years time going, wow, look at all the cool things I've done. I don't, sounds really weird, but I don't ever really aim to be massive, because I just think it's like, you know, it could happen, it could not. Sometimes a lot of these things are down to other, you know, like you say, it's seeking validation from others. It's whether people respond to you in a certain way. And as a sensitive person, I don't like to be that vulnerable. So I like to have a certain element of control over my own destiny. But then it's also how I'm able to inspire other people. So like I've worked with Leets from when she was younger, and I've always tried to help Leets, you know, I always try and give you advice or whatever. Or there's a lot of young artists that I've worked with up and down the country where I just see them grow, and I can be like, you know, when you're on stage, try and do this, or when you're writing, try and do that. And then you see them implement those things, and it's like, it's super rewarding. And also like, because the music scene in itself is like, musicians are really like a niche group of people. So you look on the internet, you think, oh, everyone's making music. But actually, when you get into it, the musicians are like, you know, they're in a corner somewhere. When you find those really talented kids and they're working, and you're like, yeah, you know, you can help them and you can offer them that little bit of inspiration to be like, look, I've done this and I've done that, and, you know, inspire them. That's really special as well. That's something that keeps going.
Thank you for your answers. And,
Top man, Jad.
Thank you for that.
Nice one. Appreciate it. Does anyone else have a question? Oh, sure. Yes, Leets.
You know, when you was talking about the music interns and stuff, how'd you get onto them? Like on the radio and stuff like that? Like where?
The BBC introduce him. So it's literally so simple. Google BBC introducing. You put your track on the uploader. You put in a bit of a biog about yourself and your contact details. there's a whole team of BBC introducing team that producers that listen to tracks, and then it's either a local BBC introducing show will play it, or on One Extra we got now Sundays 10 till 1. Theo Johnson is a producer. He's got his presenter. Sorry, he's got his whole show, and it's able to just start the careers and play those tracks. BBC introducing also have stages at different festivals, so it's a great way of navigating, having the performance-led side of it. There's so much branches to BBC introducing, more than just having an uploader, but that way it seeps in and then different shows play it.
How do you where you're listening and that? How do you become one of them as well?
Where
you find the top 40, like where you searching for like good songs in the industry. How do you become that? Like where you're picking the top 40.
Yeah.
Like how do you get onto that? Like if you like finding good music.
Oh, the playlist committee.
Yeah.
Well, that we select the playlist committee through different producers on the network working on different shows. We have a handful from the specialist world who do the genre-specific shows. Hip hop, we've got Kenny, All Stars producer, that comes onto the team. We've then got Shawnee B's producer for dancehall, and then we have some daytime producers so that they can tell us how it's sounding in daytime and what it would sound like if we were to play it on daytime. Would this sit well on the show, yes or no? But from an artist point of view of how it comes to that journey in the first place, it's just about having enough plays. So there's a journey, there's a conveyor belt of a journey, starting from one play on BBC Introducing because they found your song, it's in the uploader, and we've played it. So like Kodge, for example, we started playing his track in BBC Introducing. We then just recently, at the end of March, done a touchdown tour where we done a live show with DJ Target on a Saturday from District, just around here. And then we got Kodge to perform for us. I've then managed to do, there's a festival, Reading and Leeds Festival, BBC Introducing stage. I would get asked, and a few others on the team would get asked, to put together a list of artists we would consider to perform. So it's all via word of mouth, recommendations. And then as that journey folds, it's more plays, it's more recognition. Target's playing it, other people are playing it, and you go, do you know what, this is undeniable. We now need to have that conversation for a daytime playlist play to build up the plays. But it's just a conveyor belt of support from specialists, and then it filters into daytime. Other DJs will also have a record of the week. They might select the song because they want to champion it, and every day that week they play that song and talk about it. That would make it an offering to come in. There's loads of different avenues that it can come through, but it is just that journey and that slow burning journey. Please.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jade. Thank you, Lex, for the question as well. Leets, sorry, not Lex, Leets. And Leets is someone who's taken full advantage of that, and you're actually going to be hearing her perform really shortly. Before we do that, we are going to hear a couple of tracks from DJ Frisky, and then during that time, we're going to do a little network. And when I say do a little network, if there's anyone, not just necessarily us, but in and amongst yourselves as well. I mean, you know, someone's got a nice pair of crepes, compliment them, warm it up, and then let that evolve into something that could be beneficial in terms of, you know, what's your music about. Take advantage of this opportunity is what I'm trying to say. So as well as speaking to the panel, feel free to, like, you know, mingle amongst yourselves. You could be of great help to yourselves as well as seeking advice from the panel here. So there'll be 2, if not 3 opportunities to network amongst yourselves to do that. Before we end, the socials of all the panel, please, if I could start from my left to the right. Rob, if you don't mind, if you can kindly hand out your socials, please.
Yeah, at GIGMATE UK, simple as, on pretty much everything. But yeah, if you want to, as an artist, we give artist platforms as well. So if anyone's interested in that, come and grab me and we'll have a chat. Thanks.
Mine's JNCMYRS on Instagram. I'm on TikTok and things like that, but I have a tendency to delete my social medias. I like a peaceful life, so I only block it in every now and again.
I mean, mine is Mark the Force, MARKDE Force. On all socials. I'm very serious on LinkedIn and Twitter. I act a fool on Instagram. So if you want to act a fool with me, feel free to join.
Very old school. I really rarely use socials. My Insta's J_style_111. Don't ask. I can talk about that later. It's all about synchronicity, but that's another thing. That's another panel. And my email, which is more important, which I use, jade.style@bbc.co.uk. Jade, JADE.style@bbc.co.uk.
Love that. She just gave you all the plug. You know, you can send her the music. Love that. Mine's just 2 tones, so the number 2 TONE_NENT.
Yeah, so obviously Ditto Music is the website to head to, dittomusic.com.
Thank you all. Once again, if you can, clap it up for the panel, man.